Former President Trump's New York trial set to resume Tuesday morning in a Manhattan courtroom. This follows a long week of testimony. Jurors hearing from former Trump executive assistant Ronna Graff, former bank manager Gary Farrow, who worked closely with Michael Cohen, and ex-tabloid publisher David Pecker. Fox News legal analyst Gregg Jarrett says all this testimony proves that prosecutors are pulling a fast one on the jury, and he joins us now. Greg, do you think with any of these initial three witnesses, the prosecution landed any punches on Donald Trump?
No, Will, I don't think so at all. After a week of testimony, they have yet to present any evidence of anything unlawful. And I think it underscores just how weak and pathetic the case is. David Pecker helped Trump more than hurt him. Testifying his National Enquirer buried stories all the time for a whole host of celebrities. So this wasn't just Donald Trump. And, you know, killing a story, that's not a crime. Silencing somebody through an NDA, that's not illegal. You went to law school, you know this. They're not even in the indictment. Trump's not charged with it. So Bragg is implying that Trump's shady dealings with a tabloid somehow equals criminality. Well, it doesn't. I called it in a column this week, filth by association, which is a sleazy prosecutor's trick. But, you know, I think after a week, Will, these jurors are still wondering, where in the world is the crime here? The answer is there is none, which makes this an egregious abuse of the legal system targeting a political opponent. If you had a fair judge who's actually knowledgeable about the law, this case would go nowhere but the dustbin of sham prosecutions.
And for clarification, Pete was asking about this earlier. He wouldn't be surprised if not only the audience, but the jury's a little confused as to exactly what you're saying. What is the crime? To clarify, Bragg is alleging the crime is, okay, you were shutting down stories, and what makes it illegal is you were doing it in order to influence an election.
Right. But in the last 234 years, that's been going on. As I pointed out in a column, you know, just look at Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and John Adams in the 1800 election. Look, in this case, it wasn't until after the trial began that the DA even identified what their so-called underlying crime is, which is influencing an election through, quote, unlawful means. Where does that come from? A state misdemeanor law, but that doesn't apply to a federal election. And it can't be a federal campaign finance violation because Bragg has no authority over that. And besides, the feds already said there ain't no crime here.
Right.
Which leaves us with the core charges of falsifying business records. Those are private. They're not public. What exactly was false about them? You know, the transactions were booked as legal expenses and services. Well, Will, that's precisely what they were. That's how Hillary booked her payments for the phony dossier. She wasn't prosecuted. Donald Trump is.
So what you're laying out, and what we're all sitting here left wondering, is how do the facts lead up to an illegal violation of a crime, of a law? And it'll be interesting to see how those two lawyers on the jury, how they end up playing. They seem kind of integral in answering that question. But sooner or later here, we hear from Michael Cohen. What do you think we should expect from Cohen?
Well, it's foolhardy for prosecutors to bet their entire case on Cohen. But that's all they've got. You know, Cohen was the driving force behind everything. He acted mostly on his own. Pecker confirmed it in his testimony, saying Trump didn't even know about reimbursements. The problem for prosecutors is that Michael Cohen is a despicable person. He hates Trump. He's a prolific liar who told so many false stories. You need a calculator to keep track. He went to prison for them. Right. A federal judge recently called him a serial perjurer, yet Alvin Bragg is investing his entire case on a fabulist. Nobody should believe anything he says, and I suspect Cohen will melt on cross-examination like a Joe Biden ice cream. I think it's going to be a bloodbath in front of the jury.
I wish we had cameras for that cross-examination of Michael Cohen. All right, Gregg Jarrett, thank you so much.
Sure.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.